All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into a really crucial and, let's be honest, ultimately catastrophic moment in the history of the British Empire. We're going to look at one man, one single policy, and the one war that it started. A war that really changed everything. This is all about Lord Auckland's Afghan gamble. So that really brings us to the central question, doesn't it? How can just one strategic decision made by one guy in a position of incredible power just completely spiral into a full-blown disastrous war? Well, we're about to find out. Okay, so our story kicks off in 1836. A new man has just landed in India, ready to take on one of the biggest jobs in the empire, Governor General. And here he is, our central figure, Lord Auckland. Now, from 1836 to 1842, he held what was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful jobs on the planet. He was in charge of administering all of British India. And as we'll see, the decisions he made were going to have consequences that would echo for decades. Now, to really get why Auckland did what he did, you have to understand the world he was stepping into. This wasn't just about managing India. Oh no. This was about a massive geopolitical struggle, something historians call the Great Game. And you really can think of it like this giant high-stakes chessboard. On one side, you've got the British Indian Empire, the primary concern. On the other side were potential threats. And stuck right in the middle, Afghanistan. It was the critical strategic territory, kind of like a firewall. And for Britain, the absolute top priority was preventing any external threats to the empire. So the board is set, the stakes are sky high, and what does Lord Auckland do? Well, he doesn't just decide to play defense and hold the line. Nope. He chooses to push forward, championing a really bold, really aggressive new strategy. And that strategy had a name: the forward policy. And really, the name says it all. This wasn't about defense, it was pure offense. The whole idea was to proactively march into Afghanistan to seize territory and assert British influence. This was a huge shift from just, playing defense. And this quote right here, it gets right to the heart of it. The motivation, at least in their minds, wasn't just about grabbing more land for the sake of it. It was seen as a preemptive strike, a way to stop threats before they could ever get close to India's doorstep. Now, a policy this aggressive, it doesn't just stay on paper, right? It always has real-world consequences. And in this case, the consequence was immediate, and it was bloody. It was war. You can literally see the direct line from the policy to the battlefield. It's a simple and pretty tragic chain of events. Auckland supports the forward policy, the policy is put into action, and boom, the first Afghan war begins. One step led right to the next, no question about it. And those dates, 1836 to 1842, they're really important. Why? Because the war consumed Lord Auckland's entire time as Governor General. His whole career in India, from the moment he arrived to the moment he left, was completely defined by the very conflict he himself had started. Okay, so this aggressive gamble leads to a 6-year war. But how did it actually play out? What was the final score? Yeah, there's just no other way to say it. The forward policy was a complete and utter failure. Catastrophic, really. The intervention didn't make Afghanistan secure, it didn't make India's borders stronger. All it did was lead to a huge loss of life and a massive blow to British prestige. This timeline here really shows you the whole story, start to finish. In 1836, Auckland shows up with his grand, ambitious policy. For the next 6 years, that policy plays out as a brutal, bloody war. And then, by 1842, the failure is just so obvious, so undeniable, that he's recalled. His career in India is over, just like that. And of course, with a failure that big comes a change in command. Auckland is out. His successor, a guy named Lord Ellenborough, is sent in with a totally different set of instructions. His job wasn't to win the war, his job was to end it. He was basically the cleanup crew, sent in to deal with the mess his predecessor had made. I mean, the contrast couldn't be more stark, could it? You've got two leaders with completely opposite missions. Lord Auckland was the one who started the fire. Lord Ellenborough was the one sent in to put it out. It just goes to show you what a complete 180 the British strategy had to do, all because that initial gamble failed so badly. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, it's pretty clear that the policies of just one leader can have huge, immediate, and dramatic consequences. Second, the forward policy was a massive, high stakes gamble that just completely failed. It was a bad bet. And third, a failure of this magnitude forces a change. It led directly to new leadership and a totally different strategy. And all of this kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. Auckland's policy was supposed to be this great leap forward for the security of the British Empire. But in the end, it was a giant, disastrous step backward. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When does a forward policy become a step in the wrong direction? Where's that line between a bold strategy and just a reckless gamble?